Hello everyone. Today we're going to learn daily Tanya 4 Kaf Beis Elul Tafshin Pei Dalet. So we've been speaking about tzedakah. We've been talking about how tzedakah, in giving beyond your means, what it does is it awakens both through correspondence and through um, just the fact that we're revealing this in the world. Uh, it awakens a sort of giving that is beyond nature, a giving that is transcendent. Um, Again, this should not be seen as a kind of technical process, but as in a personal encounter with God. In other words, our giving, so to speak, inspires God to do the same. And so he's explaining, this is what is meant by what our sages tell us. So there is an idea about the tzaddikim, the righteous, in the world to come, that they sit with crowns on their heads and they enjoy the light of the Shekhinah. So what does this mean? Atara, that's the crown or a diadem, hi b'chinat makif v'sovev. Okay, a diadem sort of goes around the head. It crowns the head. It goes above and around the head. So the head is the highest part of the body, and the crown goes around and above that. V'nikra keter milshon koteret. Right, it's called a keter, right? That which surrounds milshon koteret, that which is both above but also around, like we said. והוא בחינת ממוצע המחבר הערת המאציל אינסוף ברוך הוא לנאצלים. Okay, and this keter in the when we talk about the spheres, right? This sort of diadem, the crown, that's what connects, if you will, God's most direct and simple revelation with the world, sort of with the world of kind of successive hierarchical revelation that's sort of placed within rules. There's kind of a there's a there's an intermediate step there that is the kind of most simple revelation of the way God wants to be revealed. It's kind of absolute revelation. ולעתיד יאיר ויתגלה בעולם הזה לכל הצדיקים שיקומו בתחייה ועמך כולם צדיקים וכולי. And it says in the world to come, this absolute revelation, this sort of transcendent revelation, will be present in the world for all of the righteous, all the tzaddikim who will rise on that day. And he adds in parentheses, Ve'amech kulam tzadikim, and of course all of the people of Am Yisrael are tzadikim. So they will all join in this. V'zeu she'amru rabotenu zichronam livracha. And this is what is meant by what our sages tell us. Atidim tzadikim she'omru lifnehem kadosh. Right, so there's a part in davening which comes from Yeshayahu. I think it's Perik, either Hey or Vav. Forgive me for not remembering. Where it says that the angels turn to one another. They say and they say Kadesh, Kadesh, Kadesh. They say holy, holy, holy. Right. This is well known by anyone who has studied the Bible. Very famous passage. And so our sages tell us that in the world to come, not only before God, this will be said, but before God, as it were, this will be said three times. Kadesh, 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 right? In the words of escapes me. I think either one of the Brisker Ravs. He says, Kadesh, Kadesh, Kadesh is transcendent, 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 right? So in the world to come, tzaddikim, the angels will say before them, Kadesh. That's sacred, holy, transcendent. Ki Kadesh hu b'chinat muvdal, right? Because Kadesh means separated, dedicated, again, transcendent. Sheino begeder hasaga v'dat, which is not within the confines of any sort of conceptualization or understanding. Because this Kaddish, this transcendence, this Keter, right, which we're tying all together, is essentially above wisdom. It's above what we're talking about. Chokhmah is the internal coherence of the universe and of the laws of nature, and even the spiritual laws, and so on and so on. And it's even above this revelation in Gan Eden. Because the Chokhmah comes from ayin, right? Which is sort of, again, it's a negation of the world, not in a sense of opposition to the world, but in sort of, it has to be understood as a transcending negation. This ayin, this sort of negation, again, it's only negation of the world in the sense that it constrains our ability to unite with God. So this ayin is keter elyon. הנקרא עין בזוהר הקדוש, which in the Holy Zohar is known as עין, והשפעתו והארתו בבחינת גילוי, הוא דווקא כשהנשמה תתלבש בגוף זך וצח אחר התחייה. Okay, but this revelation here, again, just to sort of hammer home the point that this is not an absolute negation of existence, this can only be revealed when after the resurrection, the souls come back to bodies, but not just bodies as we have them now, but sort of holier and purer and more subtle bodies after after the resurrection. Because the end is connected to the beginning, and therefore even that which is lowest, or which we think of as sort of the body, the most constrained thing, is actually connected to the highest. It in some way reveals something of the highest. And the action in the end comes from the thought in the beginning. Right? When somebody sets out to do something, so they think, okay, I want to build a house, right? So the house in the end that is built is actually the intention all along. In other words, when you're going through all of the successive steps that you need to take in order to build a house, you're in some sense moving away from the original concept of the house. But then once it's all finished, you arrive back at the house that you had in your mind, but now in reality. Okay, but one cannot come to this revelation, you can't skip over, עד שיהיה בגן עדן תחילה להשיג בחינת חוכמה הילאה. Okay, so you can't go beyond chokhmah, you can't go beyond this wisdom, this sort of internal coherence of the world, and by extension the world itself. You can't go beyond that without first understanding it. Kol chad kefum shi'ur delay. Okay, so every person, learns these secrets in Gan Eden, each according to his ability. Vetal Torah mechayo, and the dew of Torah, which is a Kabbalistic concept that we are absolutely not going to get into right now, it is what revives the dead. It is what brings the neshama back into the guf and allows him to rise. Right? And when you, let's say, and when you awaken, she will speak with you, which is the Torah. And that's all we're going to say about that. And this is what we meant. This is how we're going to explain Rachva mitzvah be'od, right? Your commandment was broad. Hi mitzvah tzedakah. That's how we're going to explain this. This is the commandment of tzedakah, which again is the mitzvah of Hashem. It's the commandment that Hashem Himself performs. שהיא כלי ושטח רחב מאוד להתלבש בה הארת אור אינסוף ברוך הוא. וכמו שכתוב, לבושות צדקה. So, tzedakah, you could say, sort of, tzedakah as it's done on earth, charity as it's done on earth, especially when we go beyond our means, this is sort of the best place, the most auspicious, if you will, conceptual space where God's infinite giving can be revealed in the world. There are many reasons why this is the case, but this is an agent bestowing beyond nature upon someone else. That's about as close to exactly what God is doing as a human being could ever get. Right? As it said, Levusha tzedakah. Right? His garment is charity. Okay, and this light of Ein Sof, this supernatural, transcendent giving, will be shown in the future. Ya'ir latid bivchinat bli gvul v'tachlit. It will be an absolute revelation, bechesed chinam, right, with complete chesed, complete giving, beit'aruta deltat azu hanikret derech Hashem. And this will be achieved through our giving beyond measure here on earth, which is called the way of God, the path of God. V'zeu lashon me'od. And this is what it means by me'od, right? Rachva mitzvaysecha me'od. Me'od shu bli gvul v'tachlis, right? Which it's what this means is sort of without limit, without measure, without end. Aval echol tichla raiti ketz. Okay, and then he brings a pasuk from Kohelet, Ecclesiastes, where he says lekol tichla raisi ketz, right? For every consummation I have seen an end. I guess you could say it this way. Tichla milashon klaisa nefesh, right? Tichla, which we translated as consummation. I kind of like that translation, but I don't know if it's completely exactly correct. This comes from klaisa nefesh, which is the sort of consummation of the soul, if you will, Shebegan Eden, when it comes to heaven, right? So it's the sort of ultimate kind of um, yeah, I think that's the best word. The ultimate consummation of the soul, when the soul finally, as it were, reaches its end point and its purpose. It reaches the limits um, of God's wisdom, which it can hold within itself. Ulechol tichla, and for every consummation, hulefi sheyesh kama v'chama ma'alot u'madrigot gan Eden. Right. So there are many different levels, infinitely high levels of heaven. Ze lemala mizeh ad roma ma'alot. Right. One above another until ad infinitum. כמו שכתוב בליקוטי הש"ס מהאריזל. Okay, so he brings a ליקוטי הש"ס by the Arizal, Rabbi Yitzchak Luria. בפירוש מאמר רבותינו זיכרונם לברכה, right? When Rabbi Yitzchak Luria, the Arizal, is explaining what the sages say, תלמידי חכמים אין להם מנוחה וכו', that the righteous have no rest, not in this world and not in the next, שאוהלים תמיד ממדרגה למדרגה, that they always rise and ascend from level to level, בהשגת Torah, in their understanding of the Torah, שאין לה סוף, which has no end. It's God's wisdom, it has no end. There is no end to what a person can theoretically grasp. As far as the Torah is concerned, there's only an end in terms of what the person is able to grasp. Okay, and this is true ad haratchia. Okay, this comes only until after the resurrection of the dead, the resurrection of the tzaddikim, of the righteous. That's when they'll have rest, because they'll rest in God's absolute revelation, which is beyond all wisdom, beyond all understanding. And yeah, on that optimistic note, we'll leave it there. All right, Kol Tuv.